Hello, good evening, my babies, and good evening, mamas and papas. A very, very warm welcome to all of you on behalf of Mindseed Preschool and Daycare, and wish all of you a happy new year. I hope you guys had a lovely New Year day, and we hope and pray that this year is much, much better than what 2020 was. Yes? So, should we start? Are you ready for today's story? Hmm. So, who all are there in this story and what is the name? Should I tell you? Well, I'm going to show you the character first. I'm going to show you who's coming to meet you today. And you have to tell me who it is. Hmm? Yes, you've met him before. You've met him before, and he's as eager as you are to meet him. So here we are, and here is Mr. Bear. Mr. Bear is back again with yet another story. So the name of the story is Bear Snores On. That is the name of the story. What is the name of the story? Come on, repeat it after me. Bear snores on. You know what snoring? Yes? Should I show you what snoring is? Now, most of the times when we are in deep, deep sleep, and snoring basically happens when you have cold or something like that, this is how it sounds. And snoring can be like in different sounds. Some are like, quiet, some are really loud, like so, yes. So that's how Bear was sleeping and that's how Bear was snoring. And while he was snoring, something happened in his house. Yes. So let's start with the story. Are you excited? Yes, I am. Because I love Mr. Bear. Yes? Should we start? So Mr. Bear was, as usual, in his house, and as you are aware, and we've spoken about it before, if you remember the stories that we've done before about Mr. Bear, you will remember that I had told you guys that they love to sleep. They love to sleep. And when they sleep, they don't sleep like us. They don't sleep like Raat ko soe and you got up in the morning. They can hibernate. It's called hibernation, especially polar bears, especially bears who stay in the snow or in cold areas, right? So it's very, very cold and they can sleep for months, not like hours or days or weeks, but they can just sleep for months and months. And Mr. Bear here would also love to sleep. So when he would sleep, he would also sleep for, yes, lots and lots of days. That's how he would sleep. So it was very, very cold, just like it is now. It was winter time, and Mr. Bear was in his house. The name that we call Mr. Bear's cave is also called as a lair. So he was sleeping in his cave and he was snoring away to glory. And how was he snoring? And he was snoring and he was in deep sleep when, because of the cold wind, and I told you it was winter time, it was very, very cold, it was chilly. Because of the cold, one small little, yeah, squirrel, one small little squirrel, he came near Mr. Bear's house. Now, Mr. Squirrel basically stays in a tree, but for some reason, because of the cold winds, his tree had fallen off. Yes, it was very, very windy and it was cold and it was chilly. And because of those heavy winds, Mr. Squirrel's tree fell off. Now, he didn't have a house to go, he didn't have a place to live in, and so he jumped here and there and he looked right in the dark and he was looking for a house when he saw Mr. Bear's cave. So Squirrel went right close to the cave, peeped inside the cave, and he could hear nothing except as soon as Squirrel saw that, he was like, okay, let me go and live in this cave till Mr. Bear doesn't get up. Now, all the animals usually know that if Mr. Bear sleeps, he sleeps for a very, very, very long time and he's not going to get up. So Mr. Squirrel was very, very happy about it, and he peeped and he looked here and there, and then he went right inside his cave and he sat in a corner. The cave was very big because Mr. Bear is also very, very big, no? Yes? So this little squirrel was very happy that he got some place to stay at night. Now, while he was sitting, he started shivering because it was very, very cold. And what could he do to drive away the cold? He quickly thought, why don't I light up some fire? Yes? So, don't ask me how Mr. Squirrel learned how to light up fire, but he did. Okay, let's assume. So, he went right out and he picked up small little twigs. He picked up small, small sticks, wooden sticks that were fallen, and he made a bonfire. He lit the fire and he sat near the fire and he started rubbing his palms and feeling good that it was very, very warm. Now, while he was doing all that, he also thought that, wow, I wish I could just make 1 cup of hot tea for myself. And without asking anyone, because though he was in Mr. Bear's house, Mr. Bear was he was sleeping. So Mr. Squirrel went inside Mr. Bear's kitchen, took everything that he could that is needed to make some tea, and he quickly made some tea for himself. Not a good thing to do, na? To go in somebody's house without asking and making tea. But Mr. Squirrel was very, very sure that Mr. Bear is not going to get up and the bear will snore on. He will keep snoring. So he was very happy and he made himself some tea. Chai banake, Mr. Squirrel sat in front of the fire and he was feeling very, 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 very happy. That's when he heard a sound. And who was it? It was Owl. Owl was right at the cave, right at the door of the cave of Mr. Bear, because he was really, really surprised that otherwise from out of the cave always looks very, very dark. And today there was light, there was fire, and Mr. Owl was also feeling very, very cold on the tree. So he came and he asked Mr. Squirrel, ooh, Squirrel, can I join you for a cup of tea? And Squirrel was very, very happy. And Squirrel said, oh, yes, why not, Mr. Owl? Why don't you just sit down here near the fire and I'll make you a cup of tea. Let's have a cup of tea, come on, and let's chit-chat. Imagine, it's not even his house, and Mr. Squirrel not just self-invited himself, he also invited Mr. Squirrel without asking Mr. Bear. And how could they do this? How? And why could they do this? You know why? Because Bear continued to snore on. When I sleep, if somebody's chit-chatting or if there's light on, I can't sleep. It's just not possible for me. And look at Mr. Bear. There was light in his cave. There was chit-chat in his cave. Somebody was actually making tea in his cave. And he just continued to snore on. He continued to sleep. And with that, both of them, Squirrel and Owl, started chit-chatting and they were asking each other that, oh, how is it going? How are you? How is your family? Are you okay? How was your year 2020? Oh, by the way, Mr. Owl, Happy New Year. And so on and so forth. They were like just chit-chatting with each other. Yeah. And there was continuously, yeah, they were chit-chatting. And while they were chit-chatting, because there was so much sound, there was a duck passing by right out from the cave. Yes, right outside the cave, Mr. Duck was out on a night walk. He was out taking a night walk. Yes. Now, seriously, babies, don't ask me how, Mr. Duck was taking a walk when it was so very cold, but he just decided he wanted to take a walk. And that is why, while he was taking a walk, he heard that somebody was not just chit chatting in the bear's cave, but there was this lovely smell of tea. And because of that smell of tea, when it's very cold and mama gives you hot chocolate or Bonvita, can you imagine the smell? Just imagine, close your eyes and imagine the smell of that hot chocolate and that amazing Bonvita milk. And when you touch that hot cup, how do you feel? You feel amazing, right? And that's what even Mr. Duck wanted to do. So as soon as he heard this chitter chatter that was going on inside Mr. Bear's cave, Mr. Duck also came there and he was like, what are you guys up to? Can I come and join you guys? I think you guys are having a party inside the bear's cave, you brave little fellas. Duck was funny. And what did he say? He said that they were really brave, that while Mr. Bear continued to sleep in his cave, continued to snore on, these people had started a party and he wanted to be a part of the party. And you know what Mr. Duck suggested? Mr. Duck suggested, why don't we make some soup? That would be lovely. Don't you think it's so cold outside? I think let's make some soup. I make the soup. Come on, let's make the soup. Get me some carrot. We are going to make some carrot soup. Ta-da-da. And also get some pot, a squirrel, and Mr. Owl, you can probably get me some pepper powder. Get me some pepper powder and I'm going to make carrot soup for all of us. I don't know if you've seen the story of Mr. Duck and Mr. Bear before, but Mr. Duck, who is the neighbor of Mr. Bear, does have a habit of just dropping in without asking. Yeah. He can't sleep at night and he doesn't let anybody sleep at night, and that's the reason why he was out on a walk. And when he saw Squirrel and Owl talking to each other inside Mr. Bear's house, he just couldn't stop himself. And he's always hungry. Always. So he decided to make soup for everyone. And he started singing a song and he was making soup. Yes. And while they were doing all this, Mr. Duck was like, oh, you guys are so amazing. You all actually decided to have a party while Mr. Bear snores on. You guys are brave. Let me make some soup now. Get me some paper powder and also play with me. And let's sing. Squirrel, Owl, why are you not singing? Sing with me. Come on, let's sing. What should we sing? I'm thinking. Oh my God, how much does this Mr. Duck talk? And with all this happening in his own house, how can Mr. Bear continue to sleep? I really don't know. I'm sure you guys would have woken up. But while all this was happening, Mr. Duck took the pepper powder. And of course, all three of them were singing. They started singing because Mr. Duck wanted them to sing. So they were like, Hotel California. Yeah, they were singing Hotel California. Yeah, they were singing English songs. And while they were singing all of that and Mr. Duck was busy brewing and making the soup, Mr. Duck picked up the pepper powder. Pepper powder. Okay, you have to be very careful with the pepper powder because usually if it goes inside your eyes or your nose, we usually tend to water our eyes. If it goes in our eyes, not very good. And if it goes in your nose, you're definitely going to achoo. Yeah, you're going to sneeze if it goes inside your nose. And Mr. Duck, being Mr. Duck, was just not very careful. And he took that pepper powder and he was like, okay, let me put some pepper powder in the soup. Let's go. Ta-da, ta-da, ta-da. He didn't just put the pepper powder in the soup. He sprinkled it everywhere. Like, ऐसे कौन डालता है pepper powder? You put it like that, no? Or you use a spoon. But it was Mr. Duck. He had to do it in his own way. And he not just put it in the soup, but he sprinkled it. And as soon as that happened, and I told you that it was very, very windy because of that wind which was blowing in and out of the cave also, some of the pepper powder went inside Mr. Bear's nose. Yes. They were all having a party without telling him inside his own house, making tea and lighting a bonfire and making hot soup without asking him in his own cave and singing songs. And while all this was happening, Mr. Duck had done this, where the pepper powder just flew and went inside Mr. Bear's nose. And I told you what happened as soon as it went inside his nose. What happened? What do you think happened? Yes, as soon as it went inside his nose, he just sneezed loudly. He was like, "Achoo!" And as soon as he sneezed, obviously Mr. Bear had gotten up. And as soon as he got up, Bear was like, He snarls and he growls and he roars and he rumbles and he started walking up and down. Mr. Bear was really, really very, very upset. He was like, How can you do this in my house? Right inside my house? You duck! You are having a party without me. What? What just happened? I thought when Mr. Bear got up and he had started growling and howling and roaring and stomping and stepping and walking up and down, I thought aaj to Mr. Duck gaye. He is going to get a thrashing from Mr. Bear. But instead of that, Mr. Bear started crying. Why do you think Mr. Bear started crying? Let's find out, okay? I know. Duck is like really scared right now and he just can't talk. It happens when you're really scared. You're out of words, and that's what happened with Mr. Duck. And he was like, Mr. Bear, I'm so sorry. I was making some soup, but why are you crying? You didn't miss much. You just missed a party which we were having in your own house. How mean is Mr. Duck, no? Of course he was crying because while he was sleeping, all these friends of his were having a party in his own house. And that's what Mr. Bear said. I always sleep a lot. And because of this sleep, I always miss out on parties. You guys were partying without me. Okay. Now what do you think his friends did? What would you do if you were Mr. Bear's friend? I'll tell you what they did. Mr. Squirrel was like, don't worry, Mr. Bear. Actually, I think all of us should just say a big, big thank you to you because we are in your house safe and sound because of you. So first of all, I'm sorry to come inside your house without asking you. And why don't you have a party with us? That's a good idea, isn't it? And that's what Mr. Owl said as well.
Oh, Mr. Bear, I don't like the fact that you missed the party, but we can continue to party now. I don't think it's very late. It's still past midnight. I think we can have a party all night. Let's party all night, should we?
Yes. Let's party all night. Let's party. I'm gonna make the soup. And Squirrel, you make some Maggie. Ooh, they're having some Maggie. And Owl, you can probably play some music or sing a song. What are you going to do, Mr. Bear?
I am going to have fun.
Yes, you're gonna have fun. Let's all have fun together. Yay! I think that was a very good idea. As soon as Mr. Bear got up, Mr. Bear, instead of getting upset with all his friends for coming inside his house and using his house without his permission, he was a kind bear. He was a nice bear. And we know that from the previous two stories that we've heard about him, that he said that, what can we do? Let's party. And all his friends decided that because Mr. Bear had missed out on all the fun that they were having while he was sleeping, they decided to party all night. Now, it's not a very good thing to party all night because usually you're going to be sleepy, right? If you don't sleep all night and you don't sleep all day, you're going to be really, really drowsy. That's how you're going to be. You won't even be able to open your eyes. And so, because they were feeling bad for Mr. Bear, they decided to have their party. And they partied all night. Full night they were awake. You shouldn't do that, but full night they were awake. And by the time it was morning, all of them, one by one, ting, 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 ting matlab, they fell asleep because you can't stay awake all night and all day, right? And they were already almost having a party and they were tired, but all his friends were off to bed and they started snoring. But there was one animal who just couldn't snore after that. And who was it? It was Mr. Bear. Because he had slept for such a long time, he just couldn't sleep after that. And all his friends were off to bed. And that is the story of Mr. Bear snores on. Let's say bye, Mr. Bear. Bye bye. And let's say bye to all our other friends also. Let's say bye, Mr. Duck. He's my favorite character. And bye, Mr. Owl. And bye, Mr. Squirrel. So I hope you guys enjoyed the story of Bear Snores On. It is a lovely, lovely story. And it also talks about friendship, right? It tells us about how Mr. Bear was a kind bear. Though he was like really big and everybody thought that he wouldn't be, kind and he would rumble and roar. But he did not. He actually let his friends be. And he gave them shelter and he gave them food. And his friends were also very good, right? They felt really, really sad that Mr. Bear had missed out on the party. And because they wanted him to feel better, they decided to cheer him up. They decided to do something nice for him also. And so they decided to stay awake because they wanted him to have fun. But they just couldn't. They just couldn't. Happens with me also. I can't stay awake. I just go off to bed. Ting! All right. So, you have to tell me and write into the chat that what have you done or what do you do when your friends are sad? What do you do fun to make them feel better? Or what do you do to make mama and papa feel better when they are in a sad mood? We all know that mama and papa and our friends do a lot for us. But I want to know what you do when mama or papa are sad or probably they are tired and you want them to feel nice and good again. How do you cheer them up? How do you cheer your friends up? Write into the chat. I'll be waiting and I'll be reading. With that, we come to the end of this story time. I hope you had fun. I loved narrating this story to you. Let's meet again with yet another new story next Sunday. Till then, take care of yourself and be good. Bye bye.